Disclaimer: we do not condone the use of any drugs and are requesting the viewers to watch this video with the only purpose of entertainment and information. Hello, we are the Bleak Archives, aspiring to be your favorite YouTube channel, and we are back with another trippy video just for you. In today's journey, or trip, if you may, we will be going way deeper into the limits of ordinary perception. This place is considered to be a realm that has managed to fascinate shamans, scientists, and even psychonauts. And no, we are not talking about the video game, but you are free to think whatever you want. After all, this entire journey might just not even be in the grasp of our ordinary minds.
They were after the pineal gland, I think. Yeah. No, how's your mama?
Ignore this terrible drug.
DMT, also known as N,N-dimethyltryptamine, or the spirit molecule, is found in almost every living being, starting from plants, to animals, to even human beings. DMT is such a strong substance that it has exhibited the power to absolutely catapult our consciousness into something that can only be described as outworldly. It has made people question reality, like the movie Inception, and many claim that it made them see a world that was just not fathomable to the mere human mind. From ancient rituals using DMT to today's generation using it to discover new things about themselves and the world, we will be discussing it all. So, stick around, click the like and subscribe button, and grab onto your seats, because this ride is going to be absolutely crazy. Make sure you only treat this video as something informative and not as an excuse to try this out, because it is simply not worth jeopardizing your health. Can the DMT drug affect your mind and help you explore other dimensions and otherworldly entities? What is DMT? Exactly. Before we get into the intricate details of this so-called perception-changing drug, we should understand what it is exactly, and how does it truly work. DMT, famously known as N,N-dimethyltryptamine, is one of the, if not the, most powerful, naturally occurring psychedelic substances that is known to the world of science. The drug DMT originally belongs to the tryptamine family, a compound family that is also shared by serotonin and melatonin. That means that it has extreme structural similarity with chemicals that are already present and active in a healthy human brain. This eerie set of similarities is part of the reason that it is able to bind and merge so easily and effectively to certain receptors present in the brain, and in turn, produce its intense psychoactive effects. As we mentioned previously, DMT is a substance that is found all over the world and in nature, as it is an active component in dozens of plant species, certain animals, and in trace amounts within the human body. Mind you, we said trace amounts because it is going to be an important note later on in the video. Although even after thorough research and years of speculation, the exact reason behind the existence of DMT in the human body is still a mystery. Some studies do suggest that it may be produced in the pineal gland or some other brain regions. This specific speculation became very popular after renowned researcher Dr. Rick Strassman published his work in the 1990s, where he famously called DMT the spirit molecule. And you know what attracts people the most to any object? That is right. Its intriguing and catchy names. Dr. Rick Strassman proposed the idea that the compound may directly be involved in numerous important life events, such as birth, death, or even near-death experiences. So far, we kind of got to know where DMT is found, and due to that, many researchers used to overcomplicate things and thought that chemically it may be a complex substance, just like its origin. But in reality, chemically, DMT is extremely small and simple, as it is only made up of just two methyl groups that are attached to a tryptamine backbone. Yet, even after being so simple and easy to break down, the experiences and trips this substance can trigger can be considered many things, but definitely not simple. When it comes to its effects, if consumed properly, it can be extremely rapid and overwhelming. In numerous cases, it has also been claimed that it often transports users into vivid, out-of-the-world realms that are filled with intricate and complex stuff like geometry, light, and many other things that the others describe as otherworldly intelligences. DMT is a substance that can be taken in numerous ways and forms, and each process is a little different from another, as each process has a different effect, duration, intensity, and even withdrawal urge, though it is pretty uncommon. Smoked or vaporized. Out of all the ways DMT can be consumed, smoking it is probably the most common method used by users. When DMT is smoked or vaporized, the user can start to feel the effects of the drug almost immediately, within a few seconds actually, and this trip can be very intense and may last from anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. Users who do partake in this method have described it as being shot out of a cannon into another dimension.
Psychoactive tools for plants like ayahuasca is a very direct way of doing this.
Ayahuasca. Now, many people may not know of this method, but ayahuasca is a very traditional Amazonian brew where plants containing DMT are combined with MAO inhibitors. When these two things are combined, the substance actually gains the ability to be orally active, almost like edibles made with marijuana, but way stronger in intensity. Due to this method requiring the DMT to be mixed in your bloodstream after ingesting it, it produces a much longer and slower trip compared to smoking. These trips can usually last up to several hours and can often lead to deep introspection, emotional release, and visionary states. Synthetic or extracted crystals. DMT is also so flexible that it can often be synthesized in labs or can be directly taken out of plants, such as the Mimosa hostilis. And well, we all know what happens next, because let us be honest, we all have watched Breaking Bad, have we not? In legal terms, DMT is considered to be a Schedule I substance, and what that means is that it is considered to be an extremely addictive drug that has a very high risk of daily abuse, and it also has no means of being used in medical fields as of yet, and that is why DMT is banned in the United States and also in numerous other countries. Now, we did say that it has no medical use as such, but this statement is something people have slowly started to debate upon, as many consider otherwise. In fact, because religious exemptions exist in some regions, some countries have had to allow certain indigenous or spiritual groups to use ayahuasca legally. From a clear scientific view, almost all of DMT's effects are directly connected to its strong reaction with the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor, something that plays a major role in how a person perceives and controls his or her mood, perception, and cognition. However, till this day, like a lot of other strong drugs, DMT's exact mechanism of being able to produce such rich, potent, and consistent visionary experiences remains a mystery. DMT is present in almost every living being, and yet, when taken separately, it can cause you to experience things you could never have before, and that is what gives DMT its true recognition in the world of substances and drugs. The DMT experience, what it feels like. Honestly, if you asked us to describe infinity, we would be able to describe that to you much more easily than we could describe DMT, as it is notoriously difficult to explain the exact feeling. The people who have used DMT often say there are no words for it. Many even say that the words that would be needed to describe this experience are just not available, and even if they tried to explain, people would simply not understand. Still, after reviewing and going through countless reports, a very interesting pattern emerges, one that is both astonishingly vivid and remarkably consistent. As we previously stated, when DMT is smoked or vaporized, the effects of this drug come on almost instantly. Within 10 to 15 seconds, the reality as we know it begins to dissolve. The first and initial sensations are often visual distortions, where users report that colors become impossibly vibrant. Numerous geometric patterns begin to glow, curve, and fold in on themselves. And everyday objects, as simple as the floor or the sky, may appear to morph or pulse. Then, after the first phase, comes what many call the launch phase. This phase is most definitely not a slow drift like other psychedelics, as unlike the others, this one has a rapid, overwhelming acceleration that is often compared to being fired out of a cosmic cannon. People have stated that the physical body may feel like it is fading away from awareness, and instead is being replaced by the sensation of moving through a glowing tunnel or a vortex, which is made up of intensely detailed, highly descriptive patterns that keep on changing the longer you look at them. Soon, after the brain slowly starts to adapt to this new sensation, the traveler, aka the user, starts to emerge into a completely new environment or dimension that is best described as an alien landscape. Many people also say that it feels like a crystalline palace, or a city of light, or even a boundless void. These new dimensions often give the users the feeling that they are hyper-real, and that each surface is harder, and that the reality they are viewing at that time is the true reality. People frequently remark, "It felt more real than real life." Although the entire experience of DMT is a roller coaster ride, the most intriguing and controversial part of the DMT trip is the encounter with entities. These entities or beings may vary in form. Sometimes they are described as humanoid, sometimes entirely abstract, but in almost every case, they're almost always described to be as if not more intelligent and aware than the user. These entities may try to communicate telepathically, offer guidance, perform strange operations on the traveler, or just simply observe the user, as if the user is a child taking its first steps. Terence McKenna famously called some of these entities machine elves because of their playful, mechanical, and otherworldly nature. Emotions are a very complex thing when it comes to human nature, and it just gets more and more complex as a person uses substances, as it can greatly alter their perception, and due to this, during a DMT trip, a person's overall mood can swing wildly from left to right. While many people and users have reported feeling emotions such as overwhelming joy, love, and unity with the universe, other people have also described their trip, saying they felt deep fear, confusion, or a sense of being tested. This emotional experience can be described as extremely spiritual, deeply personal, or simply bewildering. The entire concept of time itself becomes highly unreliable because seconds can feel like hours, days, weeks, or even timeless, while hours may just feel like moments. This immense distortion just adds to the sensation of having visited an entirely different dimension or realm, entirely disconnected and detached from the actual flow of time as we know it. In the method of ayahuasca, the trip, journey, experience, or whatever you might want to call it, is slower, some even lasting for several hours, or even up to a day. The visions or hallucinations may be less explosive, but do not let that fool you. A bad trip, that is hours long and is often more narrative-driven, is the worst trip possible. During these long hours, people often get a lot of time to process their emotions, and during this time, sometimes people may experience purging, which is basically vomiting, which indigenous traditions interpret as cleansing both body and spirit. When the long effects of DMT fade, most people return to their normal states pretty rapidly, often within minutes if they smoked the DMT, but because of the sudden change, the return can be pretty jarring. Just imagine it as if you were having one of those dreams where you finally found the answer to something deep, or even life, and suddenly you were jolted awake and only remembered fragments of that dream. Due to this, many people who use DMT or have used it describe a lingering sense of awe, confusion, or even an immense surge of curiosity to understand what just happened. Can DMT help you explore other dimensions? One of the things that is probably the most fascinating things of all is the fact that DMT is such a potent substance that when users tend to use it, almost every freaking time they report being transported to a different realm or reality where things are just more complex and vibrant. Many users mention the word hyper-realistic environments, where there are crystalline landscapes, infinite geometric corridors, or cities of light. Remember when I compared this trip to dreams? Well, the only difference in between the trip caused by DMT and dreams is the fact that DMT trips are often more vivid and structured than waking life itself. After a few controlled studies, scientists believe that everything that is seen or heard during a user's trip is often an extraordinarily complex hallucination. The substance usually interacts with our serotonin receptors, particularly the 5-HT2A receptor, and that alters the sensory perception and disrupts the brain's default mode network, which is the system that helps us maintain our ordinary sense of self and reality. It is like being pulled out of everything you know. That is why, during these trips, even though the dimensions are internally created in our brains, they still feel external, just because the brain starts working in overdrive. This is a visual representation of what a trip usually looks like for a user. The people who often use DMT often raise some interesting questions, and maybe the most interesting of them all is that even though the brain does not really have a reason to have any consistency in the trips and their experiences, like marijuana where every trip differs, in DMT, the trips almost always end up in a different dimension, be it a good trip or a bad one. Could DMT be revealing something beyond imagination, perhaps another layer of existence? Some conspiracy theorists actually gave their input on this topic, and many of them agreed on the fact that maybe DMT does not create illusions or make people hallucinate. Instead, it alters our minds and consciousness in such a specific way that this alteration allows our minds to perceive parts of reality that are often hidden from our sober minds. Many even believe that this new reality is the actual reality, and the one we all live in is just a fake one made to hold us as slaves. While there's no proof, the mystery continues to fuel debate. At the end of the day, it does not matter if we do indeed experience new dimensions or just create them in our heads. The fact remains, DMT's use challenges every sense of reality we have ever had. Encounters with otherworldly entities. We have, so far, talked a lot about how a DMT experience goes, and one of the most crucial parts of the trip is the entities, so let us see what they are all about. Just like all the users mention traveling to different realities or realms, they also mention having an observer, or a participant who is definitely not human. Usually people describe these beings as humanoid beings that are alien-like, and these entities often even communicate with the users at a higher level than just verbal communication. These entities often seem to be independent creatures, as many believe that they are not just figments of imagination, but conscious beings, present with their own personalities and intentions. Many users describe that during their trips, they are welcomed warmly, are given knowledge that is considered secret, and in some cases, users even reported being healed. But every trip is not a good one, as many others have also reported encountering chaotic trickster-like beings or hostile figures that fill the experience with fear. And these experiences often cause people to have severe anxiety attacks and, in very rare cases, panic-induced heart attacks too. What makes it so intriguing is the fact that people who have never even heard of DMT or know anything about it also report seeing the exact same things as the people who use it on a much more daily basis. Like, how can every single person, aware or unaware of the effects of the drug, see the exact same thing in their trips? That is truly fascinating. Just like scientists looked into the different dimensions, they also studied further to understand these entities, and that is when they came to a conclusion that these entities are likely products of the brain's imagination, combined with cultural archetypes. Under the effects of DMT, the mind may visualize and externalize parts of itself, in turn, creating others that feel autonomous. Many psychologists also compare this to Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, which states that there are deep-seated symbols and archetypes that we all share in one way or another. Still, no matter what psychologists or scientists say, these connected experiences are often too vivid and eerily similar to dismiss. Some people who use DMT even return with profound insights or personal changes, crediting these beings with genuine wisdom, almost as if they have spent years in a place and have become an entirely new person altogether. All of this leads to the million-dollar question: are these entities projections of our psyche, extreme hallucinations, or are they actual aliens who we can see, hear, and feel just with the help of DMT? Science may call them hallucinations, but for those who meet them, the experience feels undeniably real. The role of the brain versus mystical realities. One main thing that every researcher, every scientist, hell, even every curious person asks about DMT is that everything that happens in the trip happens because it is our brain chemistry, or is the drug actually showing us something more? The perspective of our brain chemistry is pretty straightforward. As we all know by now, DMT binds strongly to our serotonin receptors, and in turn, disrupts the brain's default mode network. This is what leads to our minds creating radically different states of perception. The things that we see and feel, such as the entities, realms, and altered sense of time, are all the byproducts of our brain trying to process the informational chaos going on in our brain and trying to control it. Because of this, the realness of the entire trip can be taken with a grain of salt, because in the end of the day, the brain is something that can easily trick us, even if it is not intending to do so. All of this was the scientific aspect of the drug. So now let us come and talk about the mystical perspective of it all. Many users who use DMT on a frequent basis really insist that what they saw and felt in the trip could not have been just the brain playing tricks on them, as it was just too complex. To reinstate their arguments, they also mentioned that each and every trip unlocked a part of their consciousness and reality that was not there before, and that was why many people who left using the drug stated that they felt empty and aimless inside. It looks like that many people often like the idea of having something beyond our current reality because it gives them a sense of comfort knowing that there is much more to life than they thought there was. Interestingly, to everyone's surprise, some researchers also propose a middle ground where they say that maybe reality is highly filtered by the brain due to how it comprehends things, and that DMT actually temporarily lifts up those filters so that the true reality can be observed. In this theory, the brain does not create otherworldly realities, but it just restricts us from seeing them in our daily day-to-day lives. In the end of the day, whether it is just a trick played on us by the brain or a cosmic gateway does not matter, because the impact of the DMT drug on the individual can be profound. The debate still remains open, fueling both scientific curiosity and spiritual exploration. The serious side to the effects of DMT. Although DMT seems like a fun drug, which may intrigue a lot of thrill seekers, every thrill comes with its own set of risks. While the drug itself is not considered to be addictive and even has a low physical level of toxicity, the psychological impact on an individual can be extremely intense. As expected, a sudden plunge into overwhelming visions or terrifying entities that may seem to be after you can, and most definitely leave users shaken, confused, or even traumatized. Mental health is the biggest concern of them all. The people who suffer from conditions such as schizophrenia or even severe anxiety are at a much higher risk of destabilization. Their hallucinations can get worse. Their trips can lead them to end up in the hospital, and in rare cases, it can also cause death due to the immense stress of the trip. Even healthy users are not at all safe from the after effects of this drug, as they can struggle to make sense or even come out of their experience, especially if the trip is so intense that it challenges their sense of reality or leaves them with immense existential dread. For people who use DMT using ayahuasca, which contains DMT and MAO inhibitors, the chances of them getting physically hurt or injured increase significantly. People may walk out of the safety of their homes and get into accidents, or even participate in physical fights without even knowing what they are truly doing. Interactions with certain medications or foods can also cause dangerous reactions like serotonin syndrome. That is why, in traditional ceremonies where DMT is a common practice, it often includes strict diets and guidance from experienced shamans. Even after this, the risk of injury and trauma can never be minimized. Legally, DMT is and has to be a controlled substance, and that is why, in most countries, outside of specific religious exemptions, possession or use of the DMT drug can lead up to serious penalties and even jail time. Another issue with using DMT is definitely cultural respect. Ayahuasca tourism, for instance, has raised concerns about the exploitation of indigenous traditions and the overharvesting of sacred plants. The main thing to remember, something you should consider as the bottom line, is the fact that DMT use demands extreme caution and respect. Ideally, don't use it at all, because the consequences can be tough to get over. If DMT is used recklessly, preventing harm is almost impossible. gateway, or brain's fireworks? After everything we have learnt so far in the video, instead of just finding answers, we have unlocked even bigger and more complex questions about the DMT, such as, is DMT truly the pathway to a different realm, or is it just our brain trying to show us something we could have never seen before? The scientific side of the world says that it is nothing more than the brain firing numerous signals at the same time by inducing vivid hallucinations that are born from altered serotonin activity. The consistency of all the visions and entities in this view is because of the shared archetypes and neural patterns, whereas the mystical perspective of this drug heavily insists otherwise. The hyper-real environments, the intelligent beings that are communicating with them via unfathomable methods, the overwhelming sense of authenticity and realism, they all suggest that DMT gives the user access to a dimension way beyond ordinary perception. To the people who believe in this, DMT does not make up reality. It reveals the true one. Maybe, just maybe, the actual truth might be lying somewhere in between. As we learnt, some scientists do truly believe that the brain actually acts like a filter. It narrows our perception so that we can survive. Psychedelics like DMT may temporarily help our brains remove that filter and in turn allow us to catch a glimpse of a broader reality, whether it is generated inside our heads or if it already exists in our world. In the end, the only thing that truly can be said for a matter of fact is that DMT is a substance that can be an eye-opener for people, or it could also be the reason they never open their eyes to reality ever again. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking the video, and do not forget to share your thoughts on the crazy effects of the unique DMT. Also, stay away from such temptations, because it is just not worth it.